Growing your own food might feel like a daunting task, but anyone, anywhere in the world can do it. You just have to know how. Today, we're going to talk about how to grow your own food, whether you're growing in the ground, on a balcony, in a pot, whatever it might be. Stick around. Now, the first thing we want to look at today is your climate zone. Now, here in the United States and in much of the world, we use the USDA Plant Hardiness Climate Zone Map. Now, there are some other maps out there, like the Sunset Zone map. I know that they have their own map put out by the Royal Horticultural Society in the UK, and I think that there is another map in China. I don't know too much about that one. But what these hardiness zones do is they tell you what varieties of plants do well in your area. In fact, here in the United States, when you take a look at a plant tag, it'll tell you which USDA hardiness zones the plant does well in. Now, of course, that is a good start, but you don't want to stop there. We talked about this last week, but make sure that you take a look and see whether the plant needs full sun, partial sun, or full shade. You're also going to want to take a look at the area of your yard. Do you have a wide open space, or do you have shelter from things like wind? All things to take into consideration. Now, for step number 2, you're going to want to decide what you're going to grow. Now, I recommend taking a look at local staple crops in your area or things that grow well in your area. For example, you could consider growing something like potatoes in Peru, or corn in Mesoamerica, or rice in Asia. I'm not trying to be stereotypical here. Remember that wherever these crops originated, you're going to find a lot of varieties that can do well in a lot of different microclimates. Of course, you don't have to be restricted to what originated in your area. We have crops that have been bred to grow really all around the world. So if you want to get adventurous, you can really grow whatever you like. Now, next we have part 3, seasonal growing basics. Now, typically speaking, leafy greens, root crops, and tubers tend to grow during the cooler season, and many of our fruiting crops, think things like tomatoes and eggplants, tend to grow during the warm season. Now, this is not a hard, fast rule, and this might not be true everywhere in the world. So you have to get to know your local crops. But know what grows during which seasons in your area, and this is going to help you out a lot. Now, in warm climates, like here in California, we have a whole bunch of seasons. In fact, we were kind of joking in class the other day that California doesn't really have seasons. We just grow all year round, which is kind of true. But in colder parts of the world, you are restricted by season. So understand what can be grown during what time of year. Now, next, we have to ask ourselves, how are we actually going to get these plants in the ground? Are you going to plant seeds? Are you going to take cuttings? Are you going to transplant into the ground? It's totally up to you. Now, seeds give you a lot of variety. They tend to be very inexpensive, but they take time and can take a little bit of knowledge. For instance, some seeds like to be soaked, or some seeds might need a certain amount of chill before they will germinate. So make sure you do your research on the varieties that you're trying to grow. Now, for cuttings are actually a lot easier than you might think. And in fact, I'm planning on doing a video on cuttings coming up real soon. We'll talk about that again later. But transplants are the easiest way to get plants in the ground, but of course, this is typically the most expensive way if you're not starting the plants yourself at home. So going to the nursery and purchasing plants, great way to get some good plants started, but gonna be a little bit pricey. Now, quick note here, pests can be a big problem for beginning gardeners, especially on young plants just as they're getting started. You want to be careful if you're sowing seeds directly in the bed at home, as slugs and other things might come along and eat those little seedlings before you even have a chance to see them pop up. Now, if you're interested in learning about pest control, I've got a video right here you can take a look at. don't forget that all plants need soil, sunlight, and water. 3 most important things for plants. So if you're getting plants started in a pot, make sure that you get started with a high quality growing mix of some sort, maybe a potting soil or a flower and vegetable mix. Of course, if you're growing in the ground, you want to make sure that you're using compost, using mulch, and of course you can use compost and mulch that comes from your own home. You can compost all of the goodies from your kitchen that you didn't quite finish. And of course, mulch can really be anything. Mulch can be leaves, it can be bits of wood, it can be bark even. In fact, I've got a whole video you can check out right here. It talks about compost and mulch. Now, when it comes to watering, make sure that you're not just splashing the tops of the plants. Remember that plants do not absorb water through their leaves. They absorb water through the roots. You want to make sure that you're watering deep enough that you encourage roots to grow deep into the ground, especially during the hot season. This is really important to develop strong, resilient plants. And of course, when it comes to sunlight, just remember that full sun is 6+ hours per day, partial is 4 to 6 hours per day, and shade is less than 4 hours of sun per day. Look, I got it right that time. Now, don't forget that you really can garden anywhere in the world, and anywhere where you can put soil. It doesn't have to be in the ground. It could be in pots, and it could be in raised beds as well. In fact, I highly recommend raised beds if you struggle with your soil, or if you're in an area where maybe the soil has been disturbed somehow, or perhaps you might even have some pollution issues in your area. Raised beds might just be the way to go. Now, one of the smartest things that you can do in the garden is to diversify what you grow. Don't grow just a single crop. Grow many different things. In fact, you can grow your plants in polycultures. You have different plants growing next to each other. They can help each other out. Of course, you do want to do a little bit of research on companion planting to make sure that you have the right plants next to each other. Not all plants get along with each other. So do your research, use polyculture and companion planting, and this is going to help the resilience of your garden. Of course, if you are growing a lot of a single crop, let's say you're growing something like a whole bunch of tomatoes, make sure that you grow different varieties of tomatoes. This also helps to build resilience. If you get a disease on one tomato, or if there's some kind of a seasonal issue, by having different varieties, you have different strengths and weaknesses. If one variety doesn't do well this year, the others might do exceptionally well. Again, it helps to build up your resilience. All right, now I've got 3 final essential tips for you, and these ones are important. Remember, if you're just getting started for the first time growing your own food, start small. Remember that if things don't work out, that's okay. You can accept failure. Failure is a part of gardening. If you don't succeed the first time, try again. Get back on that bike and just keep pedaling. Eventually, you're going to get the hang of things. And the third tip, and probably one of the biggest tips, is talk to your neighbors. Talk to local growers, the folks at your local nursery. Ask them what they do. What kinds of plants do they grow? What kinds of tips do they have? Local knowledge is really going to make a huge difference between success and failure in your vegetable garden. Alrighty, everybody, that's it for today. Challenge for this week: plant some lettuce or radishes and see how they turn out. Remember, start small and just do your best. Now, if this video was helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. If you really liked it, or if you know someone who's trying to start their own fruit garden, send this video their way. And we will see you next week. Take care of your gardens. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now. You should diversify your crops, like your retirement plan. My retirement plan are these YouTube videos. Really? I mean, I'll make tons of money once I make it big on YouTube, right? Do you think think I should talk to a financial planner? Yes, you should talk to a financial planner as soon as possible.